vessel reports back with news of a miraculous discovery.
Early adopters of the Wii U have been waiting a long time for new games for the system. Yes, we've had the likes of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate and LEGO City Undercover, but nothing since the release back in 2012. The season of drought is over, Pikmin 3 is here and will be the first of many games to come over the next 6 months for the console. Is Pikmin 3 a must-have buy for the Wii U, or should you wait for more games to come out for the system before investing in it? Pikmin 3 begins similarly to the previous 2 Pikmin games, but with no Olmar or Lou in sight. This time your crew is from a totally different planet which is dying slowly of starvation. So you've been sent to PNF-404 to recover the local plant life to cultivate it on your own planet. However, disaster strikes as it always does and your ship crash lands and splits your crew across the planet's surface. You'll soon discover that the planet is home to the Pikmin, who are plant-like creatures who will follow your commands and will help you get your crew back together, harvest the local plant life and recover the cosmic key that will help you return back to your home planet. The Pikmin series hasn't been known for its storytelling, but it's a charming enough story that is told in this third game. In the original Pikmin you had 30 days to find all your ship parts before you ran out of oxygen. In Pikmin 2 they removed the time limit altogether, but had you paying off a debt on your home planet by recovering all the relics on the Pikmin planet, which kind of reduced the urgency of the game. In Pikmin 3 you begin the game with your ship crash landing and you losing all but 2 of your days worth of rations. To acquire more rations you must harvest the fruit on the planet. There are 66 fruit to recover over the 4 areas you'll be exploring, so there is a limit of how long you can stay on the planet. However, it isn't difficult to build up a stockpile of fruit while you're making progress through the story. It's a nice balance between the first 2 Pikmin games, and it lets you continue your side objective of finding the cosmic key that went missing on the planet when you crash landed there. You may be thinking, with there only being 4 areas in the game, that you'll finish it in no time. Not quite true, since each area is massive and contains many secrets. You've got to decide what your priorities are. Do you explore a new area that you've just opened up, tackle a boss creature, or scavenge the area for supplies to create more Pikmin or gain more food rations? With up to 3 crew members you'll coordinate what to do between them. Each day is around 15 to 20 minutes before you need to return to the ship because the nocturnal monsters will come out and any stray Pikmin you leave behind will be eaten up. You won't be able to access everything from the get-go either, and you'll have to backtrack to previous areas to progress the story further when you've gained new Pikmin who have abilities to get you through to new areas. The one thing they have removed is the dungeons that were introduced in Pikmin 2. Here you would challenge to take up to 100 Pikmin through a multi-layered dungeon, and you wouldn't be able to call in reinforcements if the Pikmin died. These were mini gauntlets and they were quite challenging. I felt this was one of the strongest features of the previous game. It's a shame that it was removed, but the new game areas make up for it with the pure size of them. After beating certain levels you unlock a challenge mode which tasks you to collect, destroy and time trials versus bosses you've defeated before. This can either be done solo or local co-op. There is also a bingo battle mode, but again this is local versus mode. Nintendo is notorious for having long tutorials and holding the player's hands for far too long, but instead you're only given a simple 5 to minute 10 tutorial and then they let you go. And if you are struggling, there are mini SD chips that are spread across the map which give you slight hints of what to do next. It's a perfect balance and I'm thankful for it after playing the Mario and Luigi Dream Team, which is terribly tutorialized. The control schemes have had a massive overhaul since the original Pikmin. There are now 3 control schemes. The first uses the Wii U tablet as a standard GameCube controller, but with a map screen being displayed on the tablet. You can also issue move commands to each of the crew members like in an RTS, which becomes important later on when you have to do multiple jobs at a time. The second is a control screen that was used for the re-release of Pikmin on the Wii with the nunchuck and remote. This gives you a more precise and quicker control in combat than moving the target reticle with a control stick but by just pointing at it. Third and finally is the Wii U Pro controller that harkens back to the GameCube controller. This is the same as the first control scheme but without the tablet screen. The last 2 control schemes don't have access to the map screen, which I feel is a massive oversight since you have to use the tablet in sync with these controls to actually have a map. I prefer the Wiimote and nunchuck, but to play this game effectively you will need to use the tablet or you'll be at a disadvantage, especially on the last level where you have to do multiple tasks to actually beat it. Not much has changed in the way you play Pikmin however. You control up to 100 Pikmin at a time and you have to guide them through the environment by moving blocks, removing obstacles, killing creatures and harvesting the local plant life. You will have to figure out which Pikmin will be better at the job you require and manage where to send them. Returning Pikmin include the red, blue and yellow, which have the standard immunities to fire, water and electricity. They are now joined by 2 new Pikmin, the rock Pikmin who can shatter crystals and inflict powerful burst damage, and the flying Pikmin who can transport obstacles of monsters and lift objects away so you can go under them. The bosses and even the minor creatures you will encounter offer a fair challenge when you first encounter them, and you will be losing Pikmin left, right and centre while you bumble around to figure out its weakness. Losing Pikmin isn't the end of the world other than you seeing them die. You can easily reinforce them by going back to the ship. The game also keeps track of the damage you inflict on bosses, so you're always making progress even if you're losing. The original game being on the GameCube looked good back in the day, but comparing it to Pikmin 3 is just plain unfair, as you can see in this side by side. It's a totally different game. The Wii U may not be next gen compared to the Xbox One and PS4, but who cares about next gen when the fruit looks edible, the vegetation brings the world to life, and the frightening creatures that inhabit it will send shivers down your spine. It's also really interesting to see the world from an ant-like perspective, because the game has always been hinted to be on Earth. The music in the game sets the mood for each of the areas and changes throughout the mission to coincide with the urgency of the time of day as well. There is also a lot of sound effects happening in the game, especially with the noisy Pikmin. However, they aren't as annoying as they were in Pikmin 2, when they used to follow you around and sing the constant same song over and over and over again. Pikmin 3 is an absolute delight to play. From its charming world to the addictive short burst gameplay, you will have a big grin on your face and you will feel terrible when you kill Pikmins because of your pure judgment. The game difficulty isn't particularly hard, but can offer a fair challenge for a younger audience who aren't used to management games, but it's a great introduction to the RTS genre for them. The one issue I still have is that there is no online play, which I feel is a massive oversight. They did say it was because of issues with lag, but I think this shouldn't be an issue in this day and age. I will touch on this again in a future video. Despite to say, not all of us can arrange local co-op play. If the game is a success, Nintendo has talked about creating DLC for it in the near future, but who can say when this will happen with the lack of Wii U's out there. All in all, Pikmin 3 is a must-have title for Wii U owners, but be prepared there isn't much replayability after finishing other than local multiplayer and setting new records for yourself. If you've enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing to my channel and also follow me on Twitter at Jamie Winstanley. Bye bye.